Hi, this is Steve. Tonight I'd like to celebrate the life of Richard Donner, whom we found out this morning that he had passed away yesterday, July 5th, at the age of 91. I'd like to talk about some of the extraordinary things that he did in his life, and talk, first of all, talk about what he did most recently that's pretty significant. Um, but recently, I mean, in the year 2000, he hired Kevin Feige to run Marvel, and that was the year that they released the first X-Men movie, starring Jackman. Apparently, Kevin Feige had worked for Richard Donner's wife, Lauren Schuler Donner, and he worked on. He was she was an executive producer, and he was an assistant to her, and that was around 1997 through 2000 or so, 96 through 2000, somewhere in there. He had worked on had assisted on the movies Volcano and You've Got Mail. But you think about that, like Richard Donner hired Kevin Feige. Think about that. Where would the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, be if he hadn't done that? I mean, Kevin Feige was a Marvel expert at the time. Now we're like, what is it, 26 movies in or something like that. The official MCU didn't start until Iron Man in 2008, but they had done several X-Men movies before then, and so he was a huge part of that. I think Richard Donner might have been like 70. He just died in 91, so he would have been right around 70. Late 60s, early 70 at the time. I'm sure when they were probably thinking about the production of X-Men probably a year or two before, but something like that you can't just throw together. It's such a big deal, but just think about that if he hadn't hired Kevin Feige, where Marvel would be right now. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. Their movies have done huge, and now Black Widow is about to get released this coming Friday, July 9th. So hopefully that keeps going. But one of the first things that he did, it was like this fourth movie, was The Omen in 1976, starring Gregory Peck. Really scary horror movie. I don't really know if he really did any horror movies, but this is one of the better ones from the 70s. And I love the 70s and 80s horror primarily, and I like from the 90s on as well. But that's definitely the prime period for me as far as one of the best horror that I've enjoyed in my life. That come from those two decades. But The Omen was a huge part of the 1976. And then after that, he produced this bad boy. Let's see the T-shirt. 1978, he produced the first Superman movie, which is really a leap forward in superhero movies. I really hadn't done a lot before then. Some Batman and back in the years before, and the Batman 60s TV show in 1968. They made a movie after the first season. Around that time, or maybe after the second season, but that was in theaters as well. But really, this is like what jump started the effects in comic book based movies. He worked on the first one, and you see the top goes off like that. This is my Blu-ray edition, but he had filmed. I guess he had already filmed like 75%. He was working on Superman 1 and 2, and had filmed like 75% of Superman 2. And then he had some kind of, I guess he was going over budget or something, but the producers at Warner Brothers were not happy with him, and they told him to stop Superman 2 and just focus on the first one. And then they decided to, I guess, fire him from Superman 2, and they hired Richard Lester. If you know, Richard Lester had worked on two Beatles movies, A Hard Day's Night and Help. And I guess in order to get credit for Superman 2, he had to reshoot a lot of the movie. So he's given credit as being the director of Superman 2. You know, Richard Donner had already filmed about 75% of the movie, and then in 2006 they made a Donner cut of Superman 2, and it's not really easy to watch because a lot of the scenes are done with cheap computer effects, and it's just kind of sad. But who knows what would have happened if he would have been able to finish Superman 2, you know, because Superman 1 was so great. I mean, the effects in that movie are way ahead of their time. This gives the Blu-ray edition here. There are like eight Blu-rays in here, covering everything up until Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. But anyways, he had after that he did a movie called The Toy with Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason. That was in 1982. And by the way, Superman 2 was in 1980. The Donner cut was in 2006, as I mentioned. But The Toy was in 1982, and then 1985 he did The Goonies, which is a classic movie. Steven Spielberg was like an executive producer on that, but Richard Donner directed the movie. Some people kind of forget that he was the director with a lot of kids and then child stars that became, you know, big time stars later. And also that same year he did a movie called Lady Hawk, 1985, and then after that he did this big time juggernaut series, Lethal Weapon. You see it, you know, starring Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. First one was in 1987. He also did one in 1989, 1992, and 1998. And they even just like last year, we're just talking about possibly doing a Lethal Weapon 5. You know, probably won't happen now, but maybe it will. Who knows? But this movie was a huge hit. And, but then also he did a movie called Radio Flyer in 1992. He also did Maverick, which he teamed up with Mel Gibson again in 1994 for Maverick. It's kind of an old, kind of Western kind of movie based on a TV show. And then he teamed up with Mel Gibson again in a movie called Conspiracy Theory in 1997, which is I think really kind of an underrated movie. I have that on like VHS. I've never bought it on Blu-ray or DVD, but it's actually a really good movie. You know, Mel Gibson's kind of obsessed with conspiracy theories, and I don't want to give anything away, but it's a really good movie. Also, he was executive producer on the Lost Boys in 1987. Then he also did Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight in 1995, and Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood in 1996. To 95 and 96, he did the Tales from the Crypt. He was executive producer on those. Also, he did Any Given Sunday. It was directed by Oliver Stone in 1999. Executive producer. 91 years old. He had a full life. You know, and so many just great accomplishments. I think Steven Spielberg had some really kind words to say about Richard Donner today. You know, because they had worked on the Goonies in 1985. You know, so I think just I really like people to just think about how important he was to Marvel and to DC as well. I mean, you know, Superman and what should have been Superman 2, but he jumped off. You know, jump started that franchise for Superman that went on with Brandon Routh and Superman Returns, and then with Man of Steel. You know, who knows if those movies would be as successful as they have been without Richard Donner starting the franchise in 1978. So I just felt like I should do a video tonight, just kind of celebrating his life and just letting people know how important he was to Marvel. Just everything that you love about comic book movies, you know, it may have been because of Richard Donner. So Just maybe if you'd like to just put some comments in, just tell me what Richard Donner meant to your life, and how much maybe how much you enjoyed Superman, and how much you enjoyed Marvel, because obviously Disney bought Marvel in around 2008 or so, before they did, or I guess that's the MCU started with Iron Man, but I think it was actually Iron Man 3 that the MCU, when Disney actually bought Marvel, and that's when they took over and put a lot of money into Marvel. The first two Iron Man movies were not part of Disney, but still those two movies count towards the MCU, and what eventually led to Avengers Endgame, which is a huge movie, one of the biggest box office. It's like it holds the record now for the best box office ever. So maybe Richard Donner, maybe if he hadn't hired Kevin Feige in 2000 to run Marvel, who knows? Who knows where that franchise would have gone. And Kevin Feige obviously knew what he was doing, because he knew that he had the rights to all the characters except for X-Men and Spider-Man, which X-Men was part of Fox, and Spider-Man was part of Sony. So he knew he had all the other characters available, and he did the most with it that he could do, and probably the most successful franchise ever. And Richard Donner could have been the guy that jump started the whole thing. So thank you. Please like and subscribe, and have a good night. Bye.